if it was anybody else, he would have been cut from the UFC. Having a win over Amanda Ribas is not an easy feat. Everybody's overlooking Diego Ferreira, right? People don't get a sense of exactly how good this guy is. They don't get a sense of exactly how good all of his weapons are that he has.
Hello everyone, welcome to the UFC Vegas 26 preview from LockerRoom India. And to preview the show, we have with us Indian MMA fighter Karan Chauhan. Karan is someone who has represented India internationally and has won national championships as well. So Karan, how's it going?
All good, man. Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. So we'll get straight into the card. So main card we have
Mm-hmm.
6 fights,
Mm-hmm.
and the card opens with Amanda Ribas versus Angela Hill. So what are your thoughts on that particular fight?
So Amanda Ribas and Angela Hill are two extremely talented fighters in that strawweight division. They've had ups, they've had downs, they've had big wins, and they've had very pretty heartbreaking losses. Well, heartbreaking mostly for me because I love Amanda Ribas, but yeah. So Amanda Ribas's last fight was a loss to Marina Rodriguez, who's fighting in the main event of this card. So her loss was a pretty notable one because Marina Rodriguez is an extremely talented grappler and is now moving up to flyweight, right? So because she was too big for strawweight, and Amanda is now on her way for a title shot, I feel, because uh because Angela Hill is ranked slightly higher than she is, right? In in,
Yes.
in the strawweight rankings. So she's slowly moving up, and her jiu-jitsu is second to none in that division, right? I think she's got the best jiu-jitsu. I think she's got the best grappling in that division overall.
I
So
think she defeated Mackenzie Dern also, who is known for her BJJ skills.
exactly. Mackenzie Dern, who's a high-level black belt, who's got multiple notable wins under her belt because of her jiu-jitsu, was um, was taken out by Amanda Ribas. And Angela Hill, you have this incredibly composed, strong, physically strong striker. So this is a classic striker versus grappler matchup. But you have a person in Amanda Ribas who's trained by Jason Perillo, who is an extremely good boxing coach. Right? So makes for a fantastic matchup.
Okay, so I just wanted to take your opinion on something. So Amanda Rivas is coming off a defeat.
Hmm.
Angela Hill is coming off a victory. So how does that dynamic work? As a fighter, you'll be knowing better. Like how does that dynamic work when it comes to a fight?
So every fight is different, man. You don't just because you're coming off a loss or just because you're coming off a win. Now, for instance, let me put it this way: Dan Hooker was coming off a win when he fought Dustin Poirier. Dustin Poirier came off the biggest loss of his career against Khabib, but Dustin Poirier put on the show of his life against Dan Hooker, right? In an absolute 5-round war.
Yeah.
So every fight is different. Like Max Holloway says, it's O and O every time. It's not it's not as good. You're not as good as your last one. You're as good as the one that you're fighting right now. So I don't believe in somebody coming off a loss or coming off a win for it to affect their performance in the next fight.
Okay, done. So the next fight that we have on the card is Diego Ferreira versus Gregor Gillespie, and Gillespie is coming
Absolutely.
off a long
Mm-hmm.
break. Like he last fought in 2019, and what happened at the weigh-ins for that? Ferreira missed the weight, so they are now
Yeah.
fighting at a catch weight. So, how? What's your take on that particular fight?
So Diego Ferreira, now, in my opinion, he's one of the best grapplers in that lightweight division, as is Gillespie. But Ferreira is his jiu-jitsu is levels and levels and levels above anybody, I feel, in that division because it's just so refined. He's almost like Charles Oliveira when it comes to being on the ground. The way he dominated Anthony Pettis, the way he's dominated his last three opponents on the ground. And Gillespie is a very wild, very reckless striker, as as well as a fantastic wrestler. But again, like I said, he's very reckless. You can't afford to make such mistakes against a guy like Diego Ferreira, right? It just doesn't end up well for you. So I think that Gillespie's key to victory is to keep Diego Ferreira at distance and box him. But I think like the minute Diego Ferreira takes it to the floor, it's over. You know, unless Gillespie can control the wrestling positions and stay off his back.
Okay. So do you think a lot of people overlook Ferreira because he only has had two losses in his career, and that too, that one was with Dustin Poirier, and another was with Beneil Dariush. So do you think a lot of people overlook him in the division?
I absolutely think a lot of people overlook him because he's not got that sort of market. He's not got that
Mm-hmm.
marketability. He's not broken into that top five just yet,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I think once he does break into the top five, which one day I truly think he will, it
Mm-hmm.
it's going to change the entire dynamic of that lightweight division because his fighting style brings about diversity in that top five. Because just now it's one big fraternity of these of that top five, where it's Justin Gaethje, it's Dan
Mm-hmm.
Hooker, it's Dustin Poirier, it's Charles Oliveira, and it's Mike Chandler right now, as of now. Even Conor McGregor's not in that top five. Can you imagine?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think when Diego Ferreira breaks into the top five, which I think he will one day, it's um it's it's it it's going to change the entire dynamic of that top five. Now, Gillespie, however, I feel is also incredibly overlooked just because he had that one
Mm-hmm.
loss to Kevin Lee, that devastating
Mm-hmm.
loss, which was back in 2019, right? Which was back in 2019.
2019, yes, yes,
Yeah.
2019.
So why I think that he is going to have a problem coming back against a guy like Diego Ferreira, I think, is because Ferreira has been more active than he has, because
Mm-hmm.
a year and a half almost now, yeah, about a year and a half is an extremely long time to have a layoff, right? Like I had a layoff for over a year and I fought, so it becomes pretty hard to fight after
Mm-hmm.
taking a year off, which and against a guy like Diego Ferreira who has been so active, he's been so uh, he's been so on it, and he's been so uh, he's got used to being in the octagon that much more and controlling people on the floor. You know, so it's just the amount of hours that he spent in the octagon now that I think is going to be the difference in this fight between him and Gillespie. But you never know.
Oh.
Mm-hmm.
Done. So the third
Yeah.
fight on the card is a heavyweight fight between
Mm-hmm.
Maurice Greene and Rogerio de Lima. So do you see this going the distance first of all?
Well, I don't think it's going to go the distance because I've seen Lima be, you know, he's got he's got mostly losses in his career to guys who have been excellent grapplers, right? His last his four out of his last six losses have come to established grapplers and have come via submission. And Mauricio Green's last three wins out of his last three out of his five wins have been via submission, right? Maurice Greene is first of all younger, okay. Second of all, he's extremely athletic, which I'm sorry to say Lima isn't. But I do think that Lima's got better timing, and he's a much smarter fighter than Maurice Greene on the feet, right? So if Lima can keep it standing, keep his distance, and outbox Maurice Greene over a course of these three rounds, I think that he takes the fight. But Maurice Greene has like, just in terms of having more weapons, I think that Maurice Greene takes this fight, and I think that he finishes him in the second round. He finishes Lima in the second round
So that's
via
a
TKO.
second round TKO prediction.
Yep, that's my opinion.
Done.
Mhm.
Okay, cool. So the next fight we have at welterweight between Neal Magny and Geoff Neal. Now Magny
Mhm.
is coming off a loss against Michael Chase. That's after like that long winning streak that he had.
Mhm.
And Geoff Neal lost to Stephen Thompson in his last fight. Prior to that, he was also on a winning streak. So
Right.
how is this fight matching up between these two? Because they are both coming off a loss again, but at the same time, they had a lot of momentum prior to that fight.
Yeah, absolutely. So both these guys have a lot of momentum coming into this fight, like you said. Uh, his last loss was to Michael Chiesa, and I'm talking about Neil Magny. His last loss was to Michael Chiesa on January 20th at UFC on ESPN on UFC Fight Night. Um, so I think that Magny and Geoff are extremely similar fighters. You talk about their stature, you talk about their fighting style, you talk about their experience, right? I mean, not so much with experience per se, because Magny's got a lot more fights.
Magny
I'm
is
sorry. Yeah, he's got far too many fights. But Geoff, I think, is a more exciting fighter to watch. But being an exciting fighter doesn't mean being a better fighter, right? You don't necessarily win just because you knock people out. Now, Conor McGregor is one of the most captivating fighters in the sport, right? So you don't see him beating Khabib. You didn't even see him beating Dustin Poirier just because these guys have far more weapons to win the fight. Now, Neil Magny, some people think is a very boring fighter because he likes to drag the fights on. He's almost like a Colby Covington, where he likes to wear on you, he likes to lean on you, he likes to slowly take that energy away from you because he hangs on you when he puts you against the cage and he hangs on you. And that's mostly how he wins his fights. He's got very few wins via knockout or submission. Out of his out of his 24 wins, he's only got 3 wins via submission and 7 wins via knockout. Right. The rest of the 14 ones have been via decision, which makes him a very, in the eyes of the fans, a very boring fighter. But I feel it's him being a very effective fighter and effective enough to win the fight. Right. So I think that Neil Magny takes this fight via decision because he's very smart and he's very good at making people look like they're not so good. Like he's very good at making good fighters look like they're not so good.
Done. So after that welterweight, we have our co-main event, which is Donald Cerrone versus Alex Morono. And now
Hmm.
Cerrone, this will be his like 37th UFC appearance, and
Yeah.
that too. But he's also coming off. He has not won in his last 5 fights, but those losses have come against like names like Pettis, McGregor, Gage, and Ferguson. So what do you think his mentality will be like coming into this fight? Like, like he's one of the veterans out there, and he has that.
I think that he's just had a streak of horrible, horrible luck. And as much as I love Donald Cerrone, he's one of my favorite fighters, and I hate saying this. But if it was anybody else that took all those 5 losses in that devastating fashion, like he did in all of his last 5 fights, well, the last one wasn't really it wasn't really a loss. It was a no contest, which it was a draw, which
Nico
got
Price.
turned into a no contest.
Uh,
But uh, if it was anybody else, he would have been cut from the UFC.
mm,
He is in
mm,
the UFC today just because he is Donald Cerrone, right?
mm,
And that says so much going into this fight because he's fighting Alex Morono on short notice. He's taking him on just over a week's notice.
mm,
And I think that people are sleeping on Alex Morono because he's got some wicked jiu-jitsu. Like
mm,
he's not got the most impressive record. He's not got the most impressive career. He's not got the most impressive appearance in terms of being a high level welterweight in the UFC. But he's got he's got tenacity.
mm,
He's game. He's always game. Like everybody in that welterweight division is extremely game. Everybody comes to fight. Everybody brings a fight whenever they come, and that's been a very recent occurrence in the last 3-4 years. I think
mm,
Masvidal has had a lot to do with that because a lot of people have seen him take fight on short notice, and they've seen him be brash. So I think a lot of these guys take a lot of inspiration from him, and I see a lot of Masvidal in Alex Morono, just in terms of when the fight hits the floor, he's got he's got extremely good defensive jiu-jitsu, right?
mm.
And Donald is good everywhere, right? Once Donald Cerrone gets in his range and starts getting his combinations going, he's virtually impossible to stop unless you knock him out, right? So once he gets once he gets his jab going, once he gets his leg kicks going, it's very hard to stop that. As you saw in the fight against Al Iaquinta, he beat the shit out of him. Wait, one sec, you don't mind me using language over here, right?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, good, very good. So, so when you saw Donald Cerrone take on Alaya Quinta, which was just over 2 years ago, which was when his last win was. You saw him absolutely dismantle Alaya Quinta over a course of 5 rounds, which says so much about him because and it just speaks to the top five in that lightweight division because that's the division he was fighting in.
Mhm.
Because those guys didn't let him get off that much. Tony Ferguson was the first one to stop that trend, right? After that, he fought. After that, who did he fight? He fought Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje
Just
knocked his
engaged, yeah.
lights out. Yeah,
Hmm.
Justin Gaethje knocked his lights out. Then he fought Conor McGregor,
McGregor.
which was, I think, the most heartbreaking win in my
Hmm.
eyes. And then he fought Anthony Pettis, and he lost. And then he fought Nico Price, and it was
No
a draw.
problem.
And it's just been a streak of bad luck for him, just because he's faced people who are at the top of the food chain, right?
Hmm.
So coming into this fight, I think he's going to be extremely hungry. I think that he's going to be, because if you've seen his training footage lately, he looks like a different kind of animal. He looks like a lightweight. He looks lean. He looks strong. He looks fast, and he's fighting at welterweight.
Mhm.
So in my eyes, I think that he's going to come out with a lot more tenacity. I think that he's going to bring a different pace to this fight. Also, it being one of his, I think that he's well into the twilight. He's well into the twilight phase of his career right now because
Mhm.
he is 38,
Eight,
37,
38,
38.
I
Yeah,
guess.
he's 38, and he's not got that athleticism that he did when he was 29, when he was 30,
Mhm.
31, right? So you see him in the twilight phase of his career, but you see a different kind of intensity after he became a father. So
Mhm.
I think that he's going to come out guns blazing, and it's going to be a long night for Alex Morono. So I think Donald Cerrone either takes it via submission, or Donald Cerrone takes it via decision. Like it just beats the shit out of Alex Morono over decision.
Done, done. So lastly, we have the main event. So in the main event, we have like Michelle Watson and Marina Rodriguez. Both
Mm-hmm.
are ranked contenders in the strawweight division. They'll
Mm-hmm.
be changing the weight classes to flyweight for this quick short-term main event. So what do
Mm-hmm.
you think that change in weight class has an effect on these two?
Well, both of them. Michelle Waterson, you've seen, has
Mhm.
gone up leaps and bounds after moving up to flyweight, right? She faced Paige
Mhm.
Van Zandt, made easy work of her. She fought Carla Esperanza, which didn't really work out for her all that well. But did that happen at
That
strawweight, or did
I
that happen
think
at
was in
flyweight?
strawweight. Yeah, the
Yeah, it was at
Carla
strawweight, right?
fight, I think
Yeah. So
strawweight.
yeah. So yeah. So then she fought Amanda Ribas, right? Marina
Mhm.
Rodriguez. I'm sorry, I'm talking about Marina Rodriguez. She she fought Amanda Ribas. Now, having a win over Amanda Ribas is not an easy feat. She
Mhm.
took she took Amanda to the floor and controlled her on the floor and TKO'd her via elbows, which against a very strong jiu-jitsu practitioner, I think speaks about your ability, and it speaks to your wait. Can you see me? Can you hear me?
Yes, yes, yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, speaks to your ability of being refined on the floor, right? And she's extremely good on the feet as well. She's got very good hands. She's got excellent boxing. I think she's got some of the best boxing for that strawweight division. Like when she was fighting at strawweight, I think she had some of the best boxing in that division, right? Just because of her timing, not because of anything else. She's
Mhm.
not got the best power. She's not got the best speed, but she's got a wicked ability to mix everything up. Marina Rodriguez, I don't know why she's moved up to the flyweight division because she was running through the strawweights. I think it was just,
Mhm.
I don't know, whatever it is. Michelle Waterson though has more experience at, excuse me. Michelle Waterson has definitely has more experience at fighting at flyweight, but I think that just because of the amount of weapons that Marina Rodriguez brings into this fight, she is going to take it. And I think that she takes it to the floor and TKOs her via punches sometime in the second or the third round. The fighter to watch out for on the main card.
Yeah.
So out of everybody, I think like we spoke about this earlier, I think that everybody's overlooking Diego Ferreira, right? People don't get a sense of exactly how good this guy is. They don't get a sense of exactly how good all of his weapons are that he has. So I think that he's one of the fighters to watch out for. I think that Geoff Neal is going to be bringing an extremely different energy to this because he's fighting somebody who is good everywhere in Neal Magny. So I would love to see Geoff Neal and see the performance that he puts up and see what he does to keep Neil Magny away, keep him at distance, or come in and out and do damage and exit. Uh, and last but not least, I really really want to say that I am looking forward to seeing Donald Cerrone take on Alex Morono on short notice, right? Because this is again potentially one of the last fights of his career. So, and as somebody that's been a fan of Donald Cerrone for a long, long, long time, I want to see him bring an absolutely different intensity to this fight. So, which I think he absolutely will. So, just I'm looking forward to these three fighters. So it's Diego Ferreira, it's Geoff Neal, and it's Donald Cerrone.
Okay, so which particular fight do you think will steal the show? Apart from the fighters, which particular fight will steal the show?
Oh, I think Cerrone Morono, definitely. Definitely, because both fighters are looking to come in and put on a show for everybody, right? given that they're in different stages of their career. Yeah.
Yep. So,
Yeah.
Karan, before we close, you have your own podcast called The Combat Exchange. So, do you want to talk
Yes,
about that
sir.
before we close this?
Yes, absolutely. I just have about two things to say about the Combat Exchange. Thank you so much for giving me the platform to talk about it, first of all, man.
Uh-huh.
Um, the Combat Exchange is a podcast where we talk about problems that we face in MMA. We talk to different personalities
Mhm.
in the world of MMA and fitness or whatever. Our first three episodes have been with Balakrishna Patange, Vaibhav Shetty, and
Mhm.
Ashwin Hoon, who happens to be the head coach of Warrior School of MMA. Why I'm interviewing all
Mhm.
these different personalities from the Indian MMA scene is because some of the more serious things in the sport, some of the more real problems in the sport are gone overlooked. You talk about the sport not being financially stable, so people actually
Mhm.
putting their hands into their own pockets and providing these fighters with gyms, with places to stay. Um, when I spoke to Bala, Bala spoke about the genuine problems that athletes are facing in
Mhm.
in India.
Mhm.
Weber Shetty spoke about mo- Weber Shetty mostly spoke about how it is to be a fight promoter, right? And none of
Mhm.
these jobs are easy. So our sport can be pretty unforgiving, as many people do find out. When
Mhm.
when you're a boxer, it's a government recognized sport. Now, I boxed from the time I was 10 years old to the time I was 15, right? So I've dealt with the
Mhm.
Indian Boxing Association before. I've won two junior national championships, and the most dispensable person at the end of or during a tournament is the athlete themselves, right? Because the athlete does
Mhm.
all the work, bears all the expenses, and does everything, and then earns a medal at the end. Like that means shit, right? So
Uh-huh.
the fact that it's such a small community, the fact that it's such a fraternity, it speaks to it makes everybody want to support everybody, no matter how
Mhm.
much you want to fight somebody. You know that you care about that person's growth as well. Now, uh, this is why I started the podcast. Like, I wanted to talk about some of these real problems in MMA, which not many people talk about. People complain about it, but people don't offer up solutions. There are people
Mhm.
who have extremely good solutions to it, who have extremely good ideas. Hopefully, this podcast reaches out to some investors one day, some people that are looking to venture into the sport, um, invest in something that has potential in it, right? And MMA is the fastest growing sport in the world. If that doesn't scream potential, I don't know what does. I care as much as I care about my own career. I care about the careers of every other young or old or up and coming MMA athlete in this country, in the world as well. So I'm not going to stop at interviewing people just from India. I'm going to be looking to
Mhm.
interview people from abroad. I'm going to be looking to get a broader, wider perspective. Now,
Mhm.
in terms of the growth, I'll give you one. I'll leave everybody with one small example.
Mhm.
Recently, I listened to a podcast with Muhammad Mokayev, and I don't know who the guy was. I don't know who the host of the podcast was. I'll send
Mhm.
you the name. But they spoke about a very simple solution to fighters not being able to afford going for IMAF tournaments. Now, the International
Mhm.
Mixed Martial Arts Federation, or IMAF,
Mhm.
is is the only is the only legitimate governing body for amateur fights in the world, right? They set up some of the biggest amateur tournaments, like Olympic level tournaments in the world, which I'm happy to say I was a part of.
Mhm.
But it also comes with a heavy cost. It comes with a heavy registration cost of $1,000, which not everybody can afford, right?
Mhm.
We often have to take loans. We often have to go into debt to um, to be able to afford that. And the people in India that do MMA aren't the most financially well off, right?
Mhm.
So there's a simple solution to that. When you enter a tournament, you pay a certain registration fee, right? The
Mhm.
winner gets to keep the the winner of that weight class gets to keep that that registration fee sum, and he
Mhm.
uses that money to sponsor his trip to the
Uh-huh.
IMFs, right? So he doesn't have to worry about finding money. All he has to worry about is winning.
Uh-huh. Okay, awesome.
So, so that's again one small example. Now it's not a very
Uh-huh.
good example, but it's a very small, very effective.
Mhm.
It's a small, very effective solution to not thinking about another problem, because an athlete's job is to think about his or her performance, right?
Mhm.
Is to think about his or her performance. Is to think about how good he or she has to perform in the cage, not about where the fuck can I find money, where the fuck can I find an investor, where can I find somebody that's willing to sponsor me for this trip, because that in
Mhm.
itself is a whole battle, right? You can't have
Mhm.
that on your mind when you have to fight. You can't have that in your mind when you have to fight and think that, oh shit, I have to live up to this one's expectation, that one's expectations. The only expectation you have to meet as an MMA athlete is yourself,
Mhm.
and that's how you grow. Case in point, you have Ritu Fogart, who's been
Mhm.
absolutely dominating that one championship strawweight division. You have a guy like Roshan Mainam, who's dominated all of his opponents so far. Excuse me. And he's taking on one of the best Indian slash Canadian fighters in the world, in Gudarshan Singh Mangat. Right?
Mhm.
So you see that not having to worry about. I'm sure he has his own worries in life, because
Mhm.
who doesn't. But and he must have had whatever little financial issues that he had coming up. But now he's gotten picked up by Evolve MMA in Singapore. He's living there, he's
Mhm.
training there, he's eating there, sleeping there, and his only focus is fighting. And you see how he's running through that division, that bantamweight division over there, right? So that just speaks to how good not worrying about other things in life can make you as a fighter, right? Being sponsored by a team, having a good team around you. So these are the kind of problems I
Mhm.
want to talk about on my podcast. So to anybody that's listening to this, if you have something to say, please DM me on Instagram. I look at all my DMs. And I try to reply to every single one of them, whether you have a doubt, whether you want to know about what a combination is, whether you want to know the basics of MMA, or you want to talk, or you're a coach, you're an athlete, you're a promoter, you want to talk about certain problems, hit me up with it. I'm more than willing to listen and put it out there.
Awesome. Awesome. Done. So, Karan,
Mhm.
thanks a lot for taking time out for the UFC preview and looking forward to the next episode of the TC podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, man. Thank you for having me, Ranjit. It was quite a
Thank you.
pleasure.
Thanks, Karan. So, enjoy the fights tomorrow. It's 5:30 a.m. morning. We'll have to wake up early, but enjoy the fights
Mhm.
anyways.
It's just like another day.
Done. See you, man. See you soon. Bye.
Take care. Have a nice day. Bye bye.
Bye.